What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the DubsIn4 Podcast. This is episode 15. Today is October 28th, 2018. And this is officially, I guess, week 2 of the NBA season. And we're just going to be going over what's happened this week, pretty much. I have kind of just a laundry list of topics here that we're going to be going over right now. Like usual, I think this will become the norm, is we're going to wrap up the Warriors week, what happened, go into a little bit of detail on what their games were, how they played, what happened, and stuff like that, and then we'll go into who's on their schedule for the upcoming week. So, we're just going to do that first off the bat. So, since last Sunday they played the Nuggets, and we talked about them. So, on Monday they played the Suns. Warriors win 123-103. Top performers for that game were Kevin Durant with 22, Steph Curry with 29, Klay Thompson 16. Doing things that they usually do. Curry went off a little bit, and that's going to become a kind of common theme for this week. Steph Curry kind of went a little bit bananas. We're just going to put it that way. The Warriors kind of pulled away from the Suns. Suns, not a great team. Warriors took the W there on the second night of the back-to-back at home. Good turnaround from that loss to the Nuggets to be able to beat the Suns like that. So that was kind of just it was expected. I mean, the Warriors have won probably like 10 in a row against the Suns, something like that. It's a long streak. They haven't lost to the Suns for a couple years now, so that's good. But, that was pretty much expected. Curry with 29, the only reason he didn't have more because it was a blowout, but yeah. Next up, they had the Washington Wizards at home on Wednesday, and that was a fireworks show. Mr. Curry continued his week of being great at basketball by scoring 51 points on, I think it was 24 shots. And he did all of this while only playing 3 quarters because they were blowing him out so bad he didn't play in the fourth. So, Steph scored 51, which is just 3 off of his career high at 54. Almost got there, but again, it was a blowout. They benched him in the fourth, so makes sense. Don't want to risk anything unnecessary, but it still would have been cool to see him go for that. He had 11 threes. His own personal record is 13 in a game, so didn't break that either. If he had played in the fourth, he probably would have gotten there, but again, no need to risk anything. So, it's almost gotten to the point where we're all rooting for the other team to start to kind of catch up in the fourth, so they can put Steph in the game and see what he can do. That's how Steph's been playing so far. So if that doesn't give you a good idea, yeah. So Warriors take the win, 22 points over the Wizards at home. Wizards look like a dumpster fire, by the way. We'll talk about them. That's one of my topics for in a minute. But yeah, moving on. Warriors played the New York Knicks on Friday. First game of their little East Coast road trip there. You went to New York, took on the Knicks. Basically, the Warriors kind of messed around for 3 quarters, and then Kevin Durant decided to play basketball, and the Warriors turned around and outscored them like 46-15 or something down the stretch. Won by 28 points in a game that they were like losing by 10 with with a quarter and a couple minutes left to play. Basically Kevin Durant scored 26 points in the fourth quarter, finished with 41 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. Curry wasn't far behind with 29 points. Again, this kind of is just like Curry and Durant working in tandem. They've been really, really clicking this week. One of them will go off and score above 30. The other one will be hovering around the 30-point mark. And that's how they've been. I believe they're both averaging over 30 points right now. If they can do that for the entire season, I'll be very impressed. Not sure about the validity of that one, but we'll see what happens. Warriors take the win over the Knicks 128-100. In a game that probably was a little closer than the final score. Fourth quarter, the Warriors ran away from the Knicks a little bit, but it was pretty competitive through the first 3. Competitive game. The Warriors didn't really want to play for the first 3 quarters, and then they were like, fine, we'll win, and then they won. So that's what happened. Man, that sounds so arrogant, but it's true. That's just what comes with being a fan of this team, man. I don't get it. It's crazy. But yeah, KD went off there. And then today, which is Sunday, the Warriors beat the Brooklyn Nets 120 to 114. Kevin Durant with 34, Steph Curry with 35. Klay Thompson always chipping in 18 a little bit. Draymond Green with a nice all-around game. 8 points, 4 rebounds, 13 assists, 5 steals. Alfonso McKinney gave us some nice minutes today as well. So that was always nice to see. Basically, Warriors were up for the majority of the game. Pulled away late in the first half, kept the lead through most of the third, fourth quarter. About halfway through the fourth, the Nets kind of started to get back into it a little bit. They got within like 2 or 4 with a couple minutes left to play. But Steph Curry hit a clutch 3. Warriors pulled it out. Avoided a little late collapse there in Brooklyn. The Nets were kind of on fire from 3, honestly. I watched most of the game. I watched mostly the end, though. Spencer Dinwiddie kind of started going off. Karis LeVert hit a couple nice shots. So the Nets did want it. They didn't have quite enough, but they played well, I thought. So, but yeah, Warriors kind of, they did what they had to do against a bad Brooklyn Nets team. Nets aren't very good. They're getting better, though. They're better than they have been in the past couple of years, but Curry with 35 again. Steph with 35. Kevin Durant with 34, 8 rebounds, 6 assists. Draymond with a nice all-around game. So that's how you play Warriors basketball, I guess. If only Klay Thompson will find a shooting stroke one of these days. He's been pretty ice cold to start the season so far. I hit at least 1 3 today. I don't remember exactly, but I did see him hit one nice 3, and he pulled up like the next trip down the court immediately, and it almost went in. But eventually they'll start falling, and he'll break out of it. But he's in a little bit of a shooting slump right now. He always starts the season off a little slow, so we'll just have to see what happens there. But right now, Curry and Durant are carrying the offense, and that's kind of all they need to do. So. I think everything seems to be fine, but yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. If how Klay Thompson's shooting progresses here. Let me check what his points per game. He's averaging 14.7, so he's not bad. His mid-range game seems fine. He can still get to the rim, shoot mid-range, stuff like that. Get to the free throw line, but his three-pointer is kind of given up on him in the first couple weeks of the season, but it'll come back. We all know it will. He's one of the best shooters in the world, and the best shooters have slumps sometimes. That's just how it goes. He'll be back in there. But yeah, Klay Thompson's kind of struggling a little bit. So that was the Warriors' week this week. 4-0 since last Sunday. They have still not lost a game since the Nuggets. The Warriors have improved to 6-1 now. That's nice. 6-1 team. They're in the lead of the Western Conference now that the Nuggets had lost to the Lakers the other night. The Nuggets are 4-1. Warriors are 6-1. So they do have the best record in the Western Conference. Over in the Eastern Conference, Bucks and Raptors are still both undefeated at 6-0. But other than that, the Warriors have the best record in the league. So, and Bucks and Raptors play each other tomorrow. So that should be a good game. But Warriors are doing pretty well for themselves so far. This week they have the Chicago Bulls as tomorrow on a back-to-back in Chicago. Kind of a tough game because it's back-to-back on the road, and they had to do a little bit of traveling from Brooklyn, New York to Chicago. They were on a flight, but it's going to be a little bit of a shift for them. I think they'll be fine. The Bulls are not very good. They have a ton of injuries, and it sucks because they're already a bad team. Chris Dunn, Bobby Portis, Lauri Markkanen, all injured. So it's pretty much the Zach LaVine show for Chicago tomorrow. We'll have to see how that one goes, but it shouldn't be too much of a challenge for the Warriors to pull this one out. We'll see how everybody plays. If Klay can find a shooting stroke again, if Curry decides to go off for another time. Oh, speaking of Curry, I forgot to mention this, but he broke an NBA record today for most consecutive games with 5 or more made threes, I believe it was. That would be 7 in a row. It was George McLeod's record from like 22 years ago. Curry's now the record holder for most games in a row, most consecutive games with at least 5 or more made three-pointers. So that was pretty cool. Another NBA three-point shooting record for Steph Curry. So yeah, there's that. But we'll see what he does with threes tomorrow, if he can add to that streak, or if it will come to an end there. But and then Kevin Durant, obviously. If Klay can find a shooting stroke, Draymond Green, Alfonso McKinney's been playing really nice. We'll see what he'll be able to do. and they can probably squeeze him and Jacob Evans some rotation minutes. See if we can get maybe Damian Lee or Derrickson active, depending on what's going on. But I would like to see a little bit of experimentation with these two-way guys against some of these worst teams in the NBA. When we have a chance, I think we need to start playing those guys, see what we have there. But yeah, that'll make sense. Okay, and then after that, we have the Pelicans. The Warriors return home, face the Pelicans on Wednesday. So they do have a little bit of a day to rest up, take the Pelicans on. Pelicans are good, though. They're right now 4-1, I believe. They just lost their first game the other night without Anthony Davis to the Jazz. Davis didn't play, so... but we will have to see how the Pelicans look. Assuming Davis will be healthy, because it didn't seem like a major injury. But, we're assuming that he will be back for Wednesday. But, Warriors take the Pelicans at home. That'll be a tough one. Pelicans are a good team. But, yeah. And then on Friday, we get the Timberwolves at home as well. T-Wolves are kind of struggling right now, but they're still good, assuming Jimmy Butler is still on the roster by then, which it's looking like he probably will be. Karl Anthony Towns as well, Andrew Wiggins. We'll see Tom Thibodeau, what he can pull out of his hat there. But yeah, taking on the T-Wolves at home, that should be fine. Those are the 3 games this week. First one against the Bulls should be relatively easy. Warriors should probably be able to handle the Pelicans and T-Wolves at home, but anything can happen. Those can both be playoff teams, so depends on how the Warriors play this week. If Curry can add to his three-pointer streak, that would be cool. If Klay Thompson finds his shooting stroke back, we'll see how Kevin Durant plays, blah, 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 blah. But yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm excited for that Pelicans game. That should be the highlight of the week right there. We got a little bit of a homestand here. That's, I believe, 5 games in a row at home. Yep, 5 games in a row, and then they go take the Clippers on in LA before they come back home to the Hawks. But that's looking ahead a little bit too far. 3 games this week. Projection is probably Warriors 3-0, but I think I'm always going to say that. If they're going to lose one of these games, it'll probably be to New Orleans. Pelicans are quite good. T-Wolves could also give them a run for their money, but who's to say? Okay, so now we're just going to kind of talk about what has gone on in the NBA this week. And I think the biggest news is Ty Lue was fired this morning as the head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Which, I mean, that's a little surprising, but also not really. Cavs started the season 0-6, have not won a game yet. They're the only team in the NBA who have not won a game now. That the Thunder pulled out a win against the Suns today, so Cavs are the only team left. 0-6, Kevin Love's not playing super well. The rest of the roster's not playing super well. And they made the decision to move away from Ty Lue, and they're probably promoting Larry Drew to head coach. We don't know for sure. It's a bit of an interesting situation there. Larry Drew will be acting head coach. He's not officially named as interim head coach yet because he wants a longer commitment from the team. Basically what he wants is for them to actually name him head coach and say, okay, we're going to give you a 2 or 3 year contract or something, because he doesn't want to commit to being the interim head coach if he knows that he's just going to be replaced, either before the end of the season or at the end of this season. We'll have to see what happens there, but my guess is that he does end up taking the job. Larry Drew will probably be the new head coach of the Cavs. The thing is, for them, I mean, it's just a totally different scenario now that they don't have LeBron. Because LeBron obviously makes coaches look good, right? You can say, well, Ty Lue won a championship for Cleveland. He took them to the finals for 4 straight years. I don't think he was there for the first one, but at least 3, whatever, doesn't matter. He took them to the finals multiple times. He did win a title with them in 2016, so it's he has to be a good coach, right? I don't know. You have LeBron James on your team, you look like you're a good coach because you're going to win games. If you have LeBron, you're going to win games. So, Ty Lue, LeBron made him look a lot better than he actually is, and now that they've started 0-6 because they don't have one of the best players in the world, it's gotten to that point where it's okay, maybe he's not that great of a coach anymore, and so they decided that they were going to fire him. 6 games into the season is a little surprising for me. I would have given him a little more time at least. My question is, if you're already iffy on a guy going into the year, I'm sure the Cavs at least had some reservations about it, right? Because there were times that like during the LeBron era where they were like, I don't know about Ty Lue. Is he actually a good coach or not? And if in the offseason you were contemplating firing him, you probably should have just done it to give the new guy at least some time to kind of, take in the roster, take control, draw up a playbook, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't know. 6 games into the year is a little interesting. But we'll just have to see what happens with the Cavs from here. They're looking not as good as I thought, obviously. I had pegged them as a maybe contender for the 8th seed. I don't think they are that anymore. They just haven't really shown me anything. The fact that they're the only team in the NBA that hasn't won a game yet is a little telling. Kevin Love isn't really playing up to the standard that he did by himself in Minnesota a couple years ago. I mean, I'm sure he's obviously not used to it yet, being the number one option on the team again. And he doesn't really have any pieces around him at all to work with, but we'll just have to see what he starts to figure out as the season goes on, if Kevin Love can kind of start to take control of this team and lead them to a couple wins. But right now, the Cavs are kind of looking really, really not well off. So that was that. Ty Lue was fired this morning, and we'll just have to see how the Cavs go from here. And then moving on to a couple Warriors topics. I have Curry MVP, ? Basically, through the first couple weeks of the season, Steph Curry has been playing like the league MVP that he has been in the past few years. He won back-to-back MVPs a couple years ago. Now that Kevin Durant is on his team, he hasn't been able to bring it home for, obvious reasons, because he has another MVP on his team that he has to share the ball with. But right now, Curry is averaging, let me double check here, 33.7 points per game. All in, in limited minutes. He hasn't been playing a lot in blowouts and stuff, in 34 minutes per game, 34.7 minutes per game, which is not a ton, right? Like, that's a lot, but out of 48, that's not a ton. So, like, can Curry win the MVP this year? That's kind of the question that's on a lot of Warriors fans' minds right now, right? Like, you can still have Kevin Durant on your team and win the MVP. Like, if Curry keeps playing like this, there's a legitimate chance that he can win it. Like, if the Warriors keep winning games, if whatever happens, like if they come close or even break the wins record that they set a couple of years ago, and they're going off and Curry's leading the way, averaging over 30 points per game, I don't see why not. Especially if other MVP candidates like their teams start to struggle. Like right now, the Bucks are playing really well. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a surefire MVP candidate, right? Like right now, he's playing great, and the Bucks are playing well. But if they fall off, and then like other teams, we don't really know how good the Pelicans are with Anthony Davis, right? Pelicans are playing good right now, but in a couple months they might not be. Same thing for LeBron James Lakers. The Lakers have struggled early on. They've won a couple games lately in the past. This week they won twice, I believe. But we just don't know how good the Lakers are going to be. You can't really give the MVP to somebody who's going to be like the 6th or 7th seed in their conference. Like that happened for Russell Westbrook because he averaged a triple-double. LeBron, Anthony Davis, Giannis, none of them are going to average a triple-double. That's not going to be a thing. And even if they did, it's kind of lost its luster now that Westbrook's done it twice. So, can Curry win the MVP? I think he can. I mean, if he keeps playing like this, 51-point games, 3-point records, averaging 33.7, it's like, what are you going to do? Like, how are you going to stop Steph Curry? So, right now he's playing like an MVP candidate. I mean, to be fair, Kevin Durant is as well. Like, KD's going off too. But right now, Steph Curry is a popular pick for MVP through the first 2 weeks, and it makes sense. It absolutely makes sense why. And then I just wanted to talk real quickly about the DeMarcus Cousins technical that happened in the game against the Knicks. Boogie was ejected in the first quarter by Scott Foster for talking about Enes Kanter, I think is the story, because basically what happened is a couple hours before the game, Boogie and Kanter got into some beef somehow, and they both got a warning and saying, hey, if you talk about him, you're going to get ejected, really short leash and stuff. So Boogie's on the bench, and the story goes that he was giving Draymond tips on how to guard Kanter off the pick and roll. Like, he was just talking, he had noticed something and was telling Draymond, hey, like, if he comes around in the pick and roll, I want you to switch off or whatever, it doesn't matter, right? So he was giving tips in the pick and roll, and he said Cantor's name, and Scott Foster heard it and just assumed that he was talking dirt and threw him out. Which, I mean, seriously, I don't know. I mean, it's just like he already has such a reputation of a guy that is going to get into trouble that they can't even give him like a chance to say, no, I was just, like giving tips on the game. I wasn't even saying anything about Cantor himself or whatever, right? So Boogie got ejected. It's his first career stat as a Warrior. Obviously, it's very fitting. But, yeah, I don't know. That's all I really wanted to say about that. Just based on that report, that's kind of BS. And Scott Foster's always hated the Warriors, man. He's always hated the Warriors. I hate that guy. But, we don't want him reffing us in the finals, that's for sure. Okay. That's that. Moving on. I guess this is the last thing for today. But the Washington Wizards, what's going on, man? Like, they're, 1-5 now? 1-6? Something dumb. They came out west, played. The Warriors got smacked up by Steph. Lost to the Kings in a close game, and tonight they got smacked up by the Clippers. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with them. I think my thought is that Scott Brooks is going to be joining Ty Lue pretty soon, though, in the fired NBA head coaches club. I don't think Brooks is a good coach. There's a reason he didn't last in OKC, but and speaking of that, Billy Donovan's not great either. And the Thunder are also struggling, but. I don't know about the Wizards, man. They don't have Dwight Howard still. Like, yeah, he's been hurt to start the year. But John Wall, Bradley Beal, for some reason they just none of the Wizards can find a way to win a game. And they lost to the Sacramento Kings. The Kings are 3-3. Like, what? How did that happen? But yeah, I don't know about the Wizards. Add them to the list of really, really disappointing teams. I mean, I guess they were on there last week. I did talk about them last week, but right now, let me double check on what their record is. Wizards, blah 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 blah. Right now they're 1-5, so they've lost games to the Heat, to the Raptors. They beat the Trailblazers by 1 in overtime. Now they've lost to the Warriors, Kings, and Clippers. So their one win that they have is by 1 point in an overtime game on the road. And then they've lost 5 of the 6 of their games. So, I don't know what's going on, man. I don't know. But we'll see if they decide to make a coaching change, if they decide to swing a trade. But they're a team to keep an eye on because a lot of people expected them to kind of take that leap in the Eastern Conference. Now that there is no LeBron James, the Wizards felt like they could win it, get to the finals this year. I don't think they can because the Celtics and the Raptors are sitting there, and so are like the Sixers and the Bucks and the Pacers, all of which I think are probably better teams than the Wizards right now. So I don't know, but that's going to be it for this week. I just wanted to kind of talk about stuff that's going on around the NBA. I guess this is going to be probably the format for most of the weeks from now on, unless like something crazy happens, like a Jimmy Butler trade, blah 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 blah. Anything major goes down, obviously I'll talk about it. But other than that, I'll just give an overview for the Warriors week ahead, what happened in the previous week, anything major that's going on with the Warriors or otherwise. So yeah, and then if I have other ideas for lists or whatever, I'll throw them in there. But yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next time.